I don't know if you guys saw on Instagram today. I made myself a green shake, like a healthy shake, and it was kale and pineapple and baby spinach.
Okay.
It was just straight up green nastiness.
Nasty.
How did it taste?
It tasted fine. Like it's what I wanted because I felt kind of like groggy and stuff, and I wanted something kind of detoxy. So I'm drinking this shake that looks like electric swamp water, and I'm looking at my turtle tank, and I shit you not,
it's like algae.
it's bad. The hose for the intake, something happened for the canister filter, and all this shit just started shooting out, and it looked exactly like my drink.
Did you go seconds for me?
Yeah, no. I almost at that point I almost dumped the drink into
like
just the
looking at
tank,
him
like not happening.
Maybe the fish will benefit.
Yeah, so I drank my shitty swamp water, but felt better afterwards.
That's a good description of what it looks like.
That's exactly what it looks like. Anyway, hey guys, welcome to VM Live. I'm your host, Jack Rollins, and with me, as always, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Jeffrey Hoffman. What's going on, brother?
Not much. Happy Friday, guys.
Yes. Super happy it's Friday. This week has been shit, and I'm glad that it's almost over. And we have Admin Bob here. What's going on, dude?
Not much. Kind of like your rough start to the week, but glad it's over.
Okay. And then we also have our buddy Adro. Hey, man.
Going on. I've had a shitty ass week.
Yes.
Yeah, it's been pretty shitty. But today was actually, I guess, a better day. So trying to keep the positive momentum going to the weekend.
Okay. All right. One of the things that comes up on the server a lot is being a visible man. I mean, it's the name of the organization, you know, like it's what we're trying to do. And a lot of the conversations on an everyday basis are men trying to be visible for other men. And we talk a lot about it, but we don't really talk about, you know, how to do it, how to be a visible man, how to be somebody that's more or less safe for anybody to open up to, have conversations with. And what kind of got me really thinking about it is a couple of episodes ago on the podcast, we made our weekly joke to Jeff about the child support that he has to pay. Where the situation basically broke down.
I see you shaking your head, Adriel.
Yeah, where he's at this point more or less paying for the right for his daughter to live with him. And like I started to tag these episodes in for the website, and I stopped because it was like, okay, under the big tags, it was every episode for Jeff talking about child support, so I had to stop doing
support.
that. Yeah. But we had our weekly kind of jab at him for it, and it was all from a place of love. But as Jeff, instead of just laughing and doing what he normally does about it, he kind of swung back at us, and he got a little snippy, and it was justified. You know, you got defensive. You stated your point. You know, you weren't telling anybody to go fuck themselves or anything like that. Like you were, you know, but we could tell, like, oh, okay, this time, yeah, he was saying a lot of things in his head. But we could tell that
saying that. I was feeling pretty defensive. Though.
Yeah,
go ahead.
We could tell that we hit a nerve, and that kind of was in my head, and it was kind of like, oh man, you know, we're all talking about being visible man, and then we're on the show. Like bashing you, and it was like, okay, maybe we should have checked ourselves.
I don't know.
But you know, and that's where it gets with that kind of stuff. It's complicated. You know, there are no hard and fast rules with this kind of stuff, because 99% of the time, or how many shows this will be, show I don't know, 35, 36, we've made that joke almost every show, minus the one where Adro was telling his story, and then we had another guy on telling his story. So 33, 34 shows we've made that joke, and you've been fine.
Yeah.
And the one time you were like,
I guess 34 was too many.
Yeah.
I guess.
Fool me once,
that was where my
shame
tank
on
ran out. 34 times.
So I think that kind of does point out how complicated these kind of things are. There's no kind of cut and dry rules with this stuff. But before we get to the discussion about being a visible man, Jeff, I think you have a little bit of news about the child support.
Oh shit!
I do. Yeah, I had one of the most difficult discussions I have had with my ex-wife about this on Wednesday. It was I had decided I couldn't sleep for like the week leading up to it, and my heart was constantly going bonkers. And I was like, now that I've talked to an attorney and I know the details and I know what my rights are, I had every confidence that I was right, that I don't have to pay it anymore. And I know that, like the razzing and give me a heart, but I, under the advice of my therapist, when I talked to her, I said some things strategically, I guess. I'll get to that in a minute. But I told myself over the last month, as this was kind of building up inside of me, that the next time that I am alone with her without the kids, I'll say something. And that moment came up this past Wednesday. There was a coordination. She had to borrow my car, and she was at my house, and we were talking about our older daughter turning 21, which is when New York State child support ends. And she said, yeah, but with our younger daughter turning 18, there's still 3 more years. And I said, yeah, about that. And it was, I had this feeling of, I was so nervous. There was just a moment of silence, and I was like, I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid off.
Oh shit.
And I said,
understandable.
I have, I pay you, but she lives with me full time. And I've spoken with a professional about this. And this was 2 years ago when I met with her about this the first time with a mediator. And I said, is it okay? Would you consider paying more for her groceries, contributing and things like that? And she said, I'll think about it. We had a really good talk. I said, I've been paying this since she's lived here. And when we split, we agreed that they'd be 50-50, but she's chosen to spend time here. And she said, yeah, no, I know. She said, it's not fair that you're paying me, but she's living here. You have full...
Your ex said this?
My ex said this to me, that you have primary custody because she lives with you full time, and it's not fair that you're paying me.
Right.
And it was like lifting Jack's 100-pound sack of sand off his back. Like it was just
out of context. That makes no sense and makes me look really weird.
It was a weight off my back. But she started to tear up. And I said, I've known this information for a long time. What my therapist said and this is the truth, that I don't know what I'm going to do right now. I don't know when I'm going to stop it. It could be whenever I want, I guess, technically. And so once I knew legally that I didn't have to, I was faced over the last few weeks with this. I was confronted with the fact of why not, and it's because I care about her. Maybe I'm nervous about her being nervous. I feel bad. All these things, but it was my feelings. It wasn't fear anymore. It was like guilt or shame, whatever. I haven't really thought about that yet. But anyway, so she started to tear up, and I said, I've known about this for a while, and I haven't changed anything. And it's, and I brought up the fact that when she kicked me out of the house, that compassion wasn't afforded to me. It was, you got to get out. There was no discussion about what I can afford. There was no just got to go. And, since then, my credit card debt has skyrocketed so that I can make sure that things are covered. But I said, I'm not going to do that to you. I'm not just going to cut you off. I said, I care about you too much to just rip this out. I said, I don't know what I'm going to do, when I'm going to stop it, but I'm not going to change anything right now. But I want you to know that that's my stance. And the last time I asked you, and this time it's not up to you. It's up to me. It's completely up to me what I do now. And it was like a feeling of confidence where just, but I wasn't aggressive or abrasive or insulting about it. It was more of like, this is what it is. And interestingly, she said, yeah, I was afraid you were going to bring that up. She said, I've since,
oh goodness.
And her point, and I feel sad for her when she brings this up. She said that the first time I brought this up, it's very hard for her to accept that our younger daughter has chosen to stay with me rather than her. And that's very hard for her. And so she said, I think I was just in denial. And she said, I've accepted that now. And so it was, I want to say it was a great discussion, but it went differently than I expected. And it's now off my chest and it's out in the open and we can talk about it. And she has awesome. Even more time, to kind of rally her troops and come up with a strategy. And I'd like to be a part of that, but I'm not going to take ownership of it. And at the end, we talked for another 20 minutes and then our time alone got interrupted. So, I started to tear up just because I do care about her, as a person.
Right.
And it was about as good as it could have gone. And at the end of it, we hugged and, and we're talking about it now. So so that was kind of my big news for the week.
That is huge. That is fantastic.
That's awesome.
Wow, bro. I'm so happy for you, man. And I'm proud of you too.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks. It was, I don't know. I guess once I had the confidence that I didn't have to do it anymore, then that relieved a lot of stress. And then it was like, oh, wow, this is a shit situation. Like, I'm doing the best I can, but it's it's straining me a lot, obviously. But I feel like I handled it with dignity and with as much respect as I can, that I have. So I thought it went as well as it could have.
Yeah.
No, sounds awesome, man.
It's definitely. I think I mentioned this to you when you first talked about it or told me about it or whatever, and it's the difference on how you handled it versus how it was kind of handled the first time. With her towards you with a sorry, get out at the end of the day, she actually said, I saw this coming while she was taking your money weekly. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
And you still were, you let that slide. You didn't sit there and pounce on that. And you had every right to. And we were kind of talking about how there's kind of there's your legal right to do stuff. And then there's kind of I don't know if it's a moral right, but if it's just like you don't need to be a dick, or a bad person and those kind of things to where, you're not going to go after her for, back support and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And you though?
I technically could.
Yeah.
I've been told that I could. Yeah. As of like 2 years ago.
So
it's not insignificant, but I do. I mean, it would really upset. I don't know what her financial situation is exactly. I can't speak to that, but it would not be helpful at all. So I don't want to do that.
No. And I think that's great that you don't want to sit there and I think it speaks to the kind of person you are,
definitely.
That you don't want to go there. And as we had kind of talked about before, that would have, aftershock effects and all sorts of different effects that you can't calculate now with, two innocent people, your daughters, that had nothing to do with any of this, that didn't ask to be a part of it. But that stuff's going to ripple through that. Yeah, I think I'm just so proud of you that after, all this time that something clicked and you decided I'm going to do it. And then after you made that initial decision, because it's one thing to sit there and say, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it.
I've been
and then you show up and you choke,
tired of us picking on him.
Right. It was like a week and a half after we maybe we were the thing that set you off, but
that's I don't know,
but dude, I mean, this is huge. Nothing major is going to change for the foreseeable future anyway. I know that you're going to try to, because you're that guy, you're going to not only not take the money from her, but you're going to like try to help her figure it out,
Yeah.
you know?
I will. Yeah.
And that speaks to the kind of guy you are, but I think we all felt like a weight, you know? I freaked when you told me. I was just like, I was having a crappy day, and it was like, bro.
You guys support me, and I appreciate that. And I mean, to the point about sharing and making it safe. I mean, I think they're giving me a hard time about stuff. I don't know. Maybe that was enough to turn me over and make me do something about it. I don't know, but it was a part of it, I'm sure.
I don't want to give us more credit than we deserve with that. This has been building for a long time, you know, 2 years or so. But you know, it just, there was a threshold, and you found it, and you crossed it, and so.
You know, the most amazing thing is just how I feel. I mean, like, nothing's changed financially. Like, I don't know when I will, but getting it off my chest and sharing it, and with her specifically, and having it be received with, you know, as much grace as possible. I feel better. I don't know that she does. I hate to say that, but you know, airing that topic, if she's been thinking about it, there's something to be said for clarity and airing it out.
There really is. I mean, now that everything's kind of out on the table, you know, there is probably some relief there. You know what? We'll have her on, and we'll
absolutely.
We'll hash this out right here and there.
You can get my ex on here and drop the bombshell. Adriel's going after you for child support now.
We should just have like an X episode.
I think
no.
so. Amazing. All of our exes just running the show.
Oh my
No context.
That would be insane.
Oh God.
Like, who are these? Oh my goodness.
And you guys could all ignore it. I'd have to edit it. So I'd have to sit here and listen
I had
to
kind
it.
of at least the same situation that Jeff had. You know, when I finally approached my ex, and she was fairly receptive to waiver of child support. And I told you in court, the judge was like, "Are you looking for child support from her?" I was like, "No, we'll skip that part."
Yeah. So, question for you, Jeff, because you usually you have had to pay since that conversation. How did that feel? Okay, like did you? Because usually I get some sort of message almost every Friday from Jeff. Like, I'm at the grocery store.
For some reason,
he's
I'm
at the grocery
What's
store.
up, dude? I'm like,
he goes, I'm at the grocery store and I'm pissed off. How did it feel today?
The grocery store.
It felt more voluntary. And to be frank, I have it automatically deducted, so there's no buttons I have to press. I used to have to do that. I had to type it in and hit submit every Friday. It was just like, now I was like, I'm going to remove that from my. But today it was more of a. It felt like it was an open. I don't know. It just felt less obligatory, maybe.
Okay. I can't believe that. Yeah. I mean, that's so nice that you can do that auto pay, because I think about that, having to like write that check, you know, every just especially in your situation or Bob's situation, you know.
I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah, because my girl's dealing with it on the other side, where I mean, she's owed thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars of child support, and she's not really hunting him down for it, because she's like, well, he's not going to pay. Like, there's just, you know, there's no point.
That's so crazy.
But he, you know, just doesn't pay. So he's the other side of that, you know. But yeah, it's because over there, how they do the child support in Australia is, I mean, she just makes a phone call and she's like, so and so's with me, and they're like, okay, we'll make the adjustments, you know. And then they call up his work and they take the money out, or they try to take the money out. But then if he gets fired or whatever, and it's the same as it is over here with that, you know, if you're kind of removing yourself from the system a little bit, they can't find you. But they take it pretty seriously over there too. But it's interesting to me to see kind of both sides of it, to see, you know, the good fathers, which we're told are rare, and I don't think that's the case, but the guys that, you know, are on the one side, and then the total, you know, opposite side of the spectrum. So before we go to break, dude, just one more congratulations for getting that out.
Seriously,
I mean, that was a weight. It's not even about the money. It's about the weight on your soul.
Hell yeah.
And,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, we're proud of you. So
Hell yeah.
Thanks.
we are going to go to break real quick, and when we get back, we're going to discuss how to be a visible man. We'll be right back. I forgot to do this in the opening. When you research what you're supposed to do for YouTube, because we're now on YouTube. You know, people are always, you got to tell people right away to, you know, hit that like button, smash that like button, smash that like button, subscribe. You know where to. And I hate doing that. I think I have.
Like button.
It's ridiculous. Maybe I'll just make that the intro. Because if you're watching YouTube, like, unless you're 8, you know that, and I've never been like, you know what, they didn't tell me, so I'm not gonna like it.
I need to add my subscriptions.
Screw them. I'm not. But for those of you listening on the audio version of this, whether it be on iTunes, Spotify, etc., we are on the YouTube, so you can see all of our beautiful faces. And you can see the obscene gestures that Bob makes during the entirety of the show.
Yeah.
You should see his 2-minute symbol.
It's not good. You can also see my VM mug. So, opening up. We've talked about opening up and how difficult it is, especially for men. I know in my experience, there have been people that you're supposed to be able to open up to, like loved ones, good friends, that kind of stuff. And for whatever reason, they're not safe. And, you know, I shut down. I stopped doing that. You know, I had a friend who, anytime I would talk about something with my marriage at the time and then divorce and all those kind of things, he would give me all sorts of fantastic bullshit advice and tell me that he knew exactly what I was going through because he had a really bad breakup with a girlfriend a decade prior. And I'm sitting there like, that's not the same thing, man. Like, there's no paperwork involved. And I'm not saying that like you have to have experienced something fully to be able to give advice on it or whatever. But I quickly realized that he just wasn't somebody who was safe to really open up to, because I felt invalidated. I felt like my experience was being kind of pushed to the side. And, you know, we know all that stuff. Like, we know we're going to survive. We know we're going to make it. We know all those things logically. But in the moment, you know, that's not what I needed to hear. So he wasn't a safe person. And, you know, when I'm responding to people on the server especially, and now because of this, just in general, I'm trying to figure out a way to be a safe person. And what I'd like to start with is, Jeff, we've brought this up before. I think it was your daughter who suggested this. And I think it's the easiest way when you can tell somebody's starting to open up about something, you know, starting to tell you something serious. She had, I think she had you ask a question, right? Oh,
there's a cat right here. Yeah, she says, do you want me to just listen to you, or do you want advice? And she was kind of like just metering what I wanted to hear. Yeah, and
I think it was
like, oh wow, yeah, I just want you to listen or not say anything.
Yeah. I think that's such a huge. I never thought of doing that. You know, that's a good idea. Yeah, I think that because I think it puts you in the mindset of kind of empathy, of trying to figure out where they're at and what they want, what they need, versus just. I think generally, whether we mean to or not, I think it comes from a good place, but we tend to kind of go with what we know. You know, say what we're gonna say. A lot of times, it's. Like with my friend who would tell me, you know, trying to relate to me, you know, like we kind of do what we do without checking with the other person first to see if that's what they want to hear. And I think that just asking them that, you know, specifically, like, what do you want from me right now is, I mean, it was mind blowing when she said that. And this was her idea, wasn't it? Like she heard it somewhere, like this was her thing, right?
Yeah, I don't know where she got it. I mean, it could have been a therapist. I don't know, but she brought it to me. I was like, wow, that's a good thought. That's a good idea.
Yeah, I love that. And I wish other people had done that for me, especially when I was going through the divorce, because that was kind of the hardest, and Jeff, I'll say this, you're really good at that. You check with when I need something, you check to see, what I'm looking for and that kind of stuff. And I appreciate that. So I think one of the good ways of figuring out what to do, properly is to find out, what we've done or what people have done, to screw stuff up and get it wrong. So I kind of mentioned my friend who would do that. Other examples just in my life would be, somebody I was dating who wants the emotions, and they say, hey, we want you to be really, open and honest, and you can cry and you can do those things, and then you feel safe and you're like, okay, I'll do that. And then they kind of shit on you about it.
Yep.
And then you find yourself apologizing for basically feeling how you feel. And a couple of times it's happened to me, and they'll come back like a couple days later and be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that I totally screwed that up. But it is, I think with men especially, once it's like you tell somebody it's safe and then you slap them down, I think we get that growing up a lot. And so it gets to a point now, at least for me personally, that happens once or twice, and you're no longer safe. And I no longer have that discussion with you. So those are a couple examples from my life that are pretty easy. Do you guys have any examples of anybody who like totally screwed the pooch, or maybe that you totally screwed the pooch on being safe?
I can think of both sides of that. You referenced it earlier with your friend when somebody said, well, I can totally understand what you're going through. I said that recently and got called out on it because I can't understand what this person is going through. And I got called, and I felt like an ass, honestly. And so I've been more careful about that. One of the things that comes to mind about when somebody doesn't make it safe is, have you ever had somebody, you're trying to share something and they literally walk out of the room when you're in the middle of talking?
What? Like a serious, like you're having like a serious open heart, like real conversation?
Well, maybe in my opinion, I was sharing, but maybe the other person didn't see that I was at that place, but like literally mid-sentence or something. I'm like,
damn.
Like, that's not funny, but it's hilarious. Like Jeff's over here like, yeah, it's tough. And
like, wait, where do you guys go? Your video just turned off. Yeah, no, it's stark, but it just takes one time, and then it takes a dozen times to get back to feeling safe again after something like that.
Yeah. And the thing is with relating to someone, and this is why there are no hard and fast rules, is sometimes that is the right thing to kind of do. If you have a relevant example, it just stinks because that person in the moment tends to, I'm the only person who's going through this. You don't understand what I'm talking about. Regardless, like you could have had the exact same situation and like, no, but it's different. And it's like, no, it's kind of the same.
I have an example like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like when I was in rehab, so it's like we're all in rehab for the same reason. And so like my dorm mate, Elgin, was like, when I remember like when we were going back and forth, like, dude, you have no idea. And he was like, bro, I'm here in the room with you for the same reason. Like, I think I kind of know, I have an idea. And so, so for me, what Jeff's daughter said is, in rehab, someone asked me that. It's like one of like the counselors there asked me that, like, do you want me to tell, like, are you looking like, do you want to vent or do you want advice? Right. And so that's what we would do to each other there. So I've really incorporated that in my life. And I've, something that I've learned from there was majority of the time, like what Jack said, we know what we got to do. Right. So I'm always with the mindset. I think I do it in the server too. It's like, I just, I let people just go. Like I let them talk, I don't, I'm not really putting in like, well, you gotta do this, or you gotta do that. I kind of frame it where it's like, you should be careful of this, but not like this is what you gotta do, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of always go with the mindset of like, just be there to let people vent and share and open up rather than just try to give them, advice. But yeah, in that moment, it's like especially when you're in like the beginning stages, something super like traumatic, like Jackie said, like with your divorce or something like that, like you feel like you actually truly believe like you're never going to get out of it. No one's ever felt this way because you may have one unique characteristic. Well, 99% of the story is kind of like the same with a lot of other people. So it's hard to, to what you were saying, to let someone go when they're like, no one knows what I'm going through.
I'm one of those people where 99% of the time I don't want you to give me advice. If I want advice, I ask for advice, but like, but then I turn around and try to give people advice. But like, I think that's like the difference. I don't know. I see it, and I try really hard not to do it, especially on the server. If somebody's venting, I think it's recognizing the difference between a discussion and a vent. Yeah. And because if you come in and somebody's just like, oh, my ex is such a blah 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 blah, and then you kind of come in and you're like, a lot of people go through that, it's like, come on, man. There's nothing you can do about it. So it's like, thanks, dude. That just made me feel 10 times worse. So I think that's the main thing is just recognizing what it is.
Sometimes it's hard to gauge whether it's like, like a vent or just someone just going in there and just like, going off, right? Like just spewing a lot of stuff that maybe like they might not mean exactly, especially when it comes to like marriage breakdowns or relationship problems. It's like all women or all men, right? So and sometimes it's hard to take because sometimes that thing is for us, like it can be triggering, especially if we're on the other side of it. So that can play a little bit into being harder to be visible. It's like, I'll admit, like in the server, when people are opening up about stuff and they share that they've been that they've been like, unfaithful to their partners, it really triggers me because I've been, I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum, where it's like I've dealt with a lot of infidelities from my partner's end. And so it's really hard for me to remain, I don't want to say neutral, right? But just like, like be supportive when it can be triggering. So in those kind of situations, not as extreme like Jeff's example, where someone's talking mid-sentence and I'm going to walk out the room. But sometimes I do have to take a step back and say like, like I can't handle this right now, or but I usually will let them know, that it's nothing that they're doing or anything. Just, like, hey, like at this moment, I don't have like the, emotional bandwidth to handle this right now. Yeah.
And I think that's huge as far as, trying to be a safe person and being a safe person, that kind of stuff is recognizing when you can and cannot be that for someone. Because if you didn't recognize that, Adro, you'd be sitting there, and I've dealt with it too. And there have been times where you and I have both ducked out of conversations and vocally been like, I'm out. There have been times when that's happened. So if we didn't do that, we're not condoning it, in this case, infidelity, but if we went in there and didn't recognize that this is something that's potentially triggering for us and continued to talk to that person, it would not end well. Eventually our feelings would find their way out, and we're no longer safe at that point.
Exactly. I think that's one of the big things about being visible is being honest about, triggers and things like that with other people.
Yeah. The, something else I was thinking of is when somebody is emotionally reactive to something that I share, it makes it hard to feel safe, which is kind of, I don't know, it's kind of a weird balance, because you think about when somebody shares something, you want them to feel like they're not alone, and they're like, oh, I totally get it, like you're not alone. But if somebody is reactive and everything you say produces a reaction, you don't know what their reaction is going to be. It doesn't feel safe. It's not consistent. So like when you guys recognize that in yourself, that you do have an emotional reaction, and you keep it to yourself by choice so that the other person feels safe. But it's like a battery. It does take a toll on you, you know.
Oh yeah.
So, but yeah, it's I think that does make it safe for them, for sure.
I haven't heard from you in a second, Bob. Wondering if this conversation is safe. One of the things that this kind of makes me think of that podcast episode a couple weeks ago where we were ribbing on you, Jeff, like we always do. And
which time?
You'd had enough. The one where you had enough.
Oh,
and,
okay, yeah.
You know, that's something. Yeah, that's something that I have. You know, I know that I have within me of, you know, kind of the friendly. I think it's friendly joking around, you know, shooting the shit, and then, you know, not reading the situation, not reading the emotion, not knowing the 50,000 other things that were going on in your day, you know, that could have turned the tide on that a little bit and taken it from you being able to take the joke to you kind of not being able to take the joke. But I think the bigger issue is not whether or not you can take the joke, it's whether or not the joke should be made at all. You know, and
you know,
go ahead.
It makes me think though that, like, you know, we don't see each other in person very often, and you kind of have to. I think all the time we're judging where the other person is. You know, we're judging based on all you get is this little 2-dimensional square of me. You know, and you can't tell necessarily how my voice changes and stuff. But you know, if I don't do a good job of communicating that, hey guys, you got to back off. This is really upsetting for me. If I don't do a good job of that, and that's something that I need to work on is communicating how close I am to that threshold. You know, you may not know that I'm at 99. You think I'm at 40, and you know that one last joke is going to, you know, take me over the edge, because I think I've my ex-wife, actually, when we were talking the other day, she said, you know, a lot of people look at you and they think that you're pretty laid back. You're not. You're very intense, but people don't. Not everybody knows that. Yeah.
Really?
Oh. Yeah, really. Yeah. And inside, it's like a roller coaster all the time, or a freight train. But on the outside, so I think there's a big disconnect between my external, how I come off, and if I don't communicate, you know, then you don't know that joke is going to be too much for me, because I haven't told you that, and you can't read my mind. So.
All right, we're going to go to break. We'll be right back in just a second. Before we, like, literally, right before I hit the music, it sounded like a transformer blew in Jeff's house.
Yeah, something.
I do want to point something out. What's up?
I need to just ask Jeff a question. Jeff, did I say you chase your wine with water?
I did, yeah.
Trying to stay hydrated, man.
I did, because I thought I should have my voice lubricated.
Sorry,
I shouldn't. That is what happened, though. Yeah,
that's what they tell you to do. When you go to a restaurant, and you know how you get red wine, and then they give you the ice water, and the red wine tastes like crap. They tell you to do is to ask for water without ice, just like room temperature water, and because you're going from, you know, this nice cab or whatever, and then you're drinking like super cold lemon water, like that just doesn't jive with the taste buds. So there you go.
But you're right, though. Yeah, I chase my wine with water.
Before we continue the conversation about how to be a visible man, I just want to point out a personality trait of Jeff's that I've noticed. We were talking about more or less how we screwed up, or really how I screwed up. I'm not going to bring up any of this.
I know this is going to go.
Here we go.
And then you made it about you. No, but like you
about how I messed up.
Yeah, you turned it on you, and it's like you do that. And I just find that interesting that, we were over here, I was over here, you know, saying, I probably shouldn't have made that joke. And you're like, well, you didn't know.
Like, no, but I can make it my fault somehow, though.
Yeah, it's my fault, buddy. You know, I shouldn't have waited 2 years. Like, you kind of made it your fault, when in reality.
Yeah. I'll
it's all Jack's fault.
It's my fault. I'll take the blame for that one.
I think a lot of people do that.
Yeah, I think we have we don't want other people to feel negatively, so we end up apologizing, for opening up, I kind of mentioned that earlier in the show. So we have kind of to get back to where we started. So ask the other person what they want out of that situation. That I think that kind of comes from empathy. It comes from trying to empathize with where they're at, but don't necessarily, tell them that you know what they're going through. But there are no hard and fast rules on that, because sometimes that does help. Sometimes, I made a divorce account on Instagram where like the majority of what I say, and now it's more opened up to like mental health, is you're not alone, like that is kind of my thing, so, my sharing of my experiences, has, that's literally what I do. So, it's not a hard and fast thing, but, and then the last part, just probably don't make jokes about something that's a soft spot. I probably should have, it just provided, like, it was a good joke, and that's the problem.
Well, and like for me, I know I do that sometimes, where I just unintentionally don't know where that line is, and especially in a group setting, like here, and we're all making jokes, picking on Jeff, and then I'll come in and say something, and maybe it just goes that nudge too far. Yeah. And I know, and in fact, in the past, Jeff did kind of call me out one time, and he called me and we had a conversation about something that he, didn't like that I'd said. And, we talked about it, and I was like, oh, thanks for pointing that out, because I'm kind of like aware that I do it, but obviously in the heat of the moment, it's like, I don't know unless somebody calls me out and says, dude, you kind of crossed the line there. Yeah. Yeah.
I know I definitely have that within me. I'm definitely somebody who, like, especially with you guys, I kind of nudge things a little bit and like to have fun and provide humor. And sometimes afterwards I sit there and I'm like, oh shit, I shouldn't have said that. So something's, you're coming onto the server and you need to pretend you're coming onto the server and you need to vent. You need to open up about something crazy is going on. For a lot of us, it's, Jeff, you had done that a couple of times with this situation with your ex, and it's in the mend. You've started to kind of push that stone. Things are moving forward. Bob, you've gone through some stuff. Adro, like, you're still in it. When you come into the server and you need to get it off your chest, what do you want from the guys that are there?
For me, I literally just want someone to listen. I don't have many male figures in my life that are safe to go to for those kinds of things. Many, and I'll take it a step further, like many people, period. So like, I know what I should be doing, but at the time when just everything kind of builds up, like, I want someone safe to be able to let it out, because if not, it's going to stay in until it, boom, explodes.
Yeah, I would say just to listen is the biggest thing. I know in the past, like before I kind of came in here, one of the things that I tended to do was whoever was the focus of my issue, I'd sit down and like write this huge email. Some of them ended up being like, 2-3 page emails just to get everything out. I might even print it up, but then I delete it. Like I know there's a coach somewhere and one of his things is don't press send. And I wouldn't press send. It was just to get it out. Just to get those emotions, those feelings out. So that's one of the things I like about the server, is not necessarily even looking for someone to say, oh, wow, that's crazy. Just, go into a channel and just freaking vent and get it out. but it is nice sometimes too to also have someone come in and be like, oh, dude, I can relate to that. I've been through something similar. That also kind of helps to know, hey, I wasn't the only one that went through this. Somebody else has been through something similar. So I think those two things, just someone to listen, and occasionally to know that I'm not alone, that I wasn't the only one that has gone through this shit.
I think for me, when I share something, I'm like you guys said, I want to get it off my chest and just talk about it without fearing that somebody's going to try to fix it. And when they ask, I think Nako's good about this. Like he'll ask questions for understanding. He'll raise a question and I'll like, this bothered me. He's like, well, why did that bother you? Like it's not like there's no, he doesn't put his stuff onto it. It's more of just, well, has that happened before? Like, what did you do the last time? Like, just a curiosity about your experience is always interesting.
He's great.
He's got this ability.
Shout out Nako.
He's listening to this while he's working out at the gym. He's got that ability where, when he asks you why, that he actually wants to know. Like, it's not like, oh, why are you going through that, buddy? Like, he legitimately, he wants to know. He wants you to answer, so he has the answer to that question.
It's
active listening, like that is that's such like a lost art now, and it's funny because like most of the server is done through like text, but it's like you can just totally tell it's like straight active listening, like he really cares.
He does.
That's a good way to put it.
Did you guys notice the server was having Discord itself was having issues a couple of days ago, and all of the mods, none of us were in for a lot of the day, and for some reason the Wisconsin node of the internet was working, and Naka was just plugging away, and I don't think he even knew that nobody else was, it was him and other people would come in and out, and we're like, he's running it, we're good to go. He's the best of us, clearly. So we're fine. For me, I think it's a combination, of that. I would say it's I want to be seen, I want to be heard. I want to know that my feelings, if I'm talking to someone about something that, that bothers me that they did or something like that, I want them to know that they've heard what I'm saying. They don't have to agree. There doesn't have to be a solution, but I want to be heard. And I think it's similar to if I need to vent, or need to talk to somebody about something about someone else or something like that, just to know, like you said, active listening. I also personally really appreciate it's quiet, I think is the way to describe it. That kind of checking in, for me, there's a repeated, there are people in my life that, will actually say like, no pressure, I don't expect anything. Like there's an acknowledgement that right now I'm not doing super well. And that person's there, but they're not going to sit there and be in my face about it. I think part of that is just being a genuinely good person, but I think that it's also kind of showing that there's an acknowledgement that personally I'm the guy who will kind of turn into a recluse, and I will disappear and not talk to people. And so you putting through all that effort of trying to like actively trying to engage isn't going to do anybody any good, because I'm not going to be there. So I'm kind of, I want to be heard. I want to be listened to. And then that kind of, to me, it's nice to know that like people remember that stuff, and check in. That
predictability without needing something in return is that always makes me feel safe. Like you said, the acknowledgement of, you don't need to respond to this. I know what you're going. Well, I don't want you. Like, I know that you're not in a good place, but I'm here.
Building safety is really like a work. Like the follow up really helps with that, build that trust, because it's not like like I let you vent. You let me vent one time, I'm gonna keep coming back or whatever. It's like it takes that time. But what Jack said, just the checking in and remembering the stuff, like that builds trust.
I was thinking of something else that. I think it was a few months ago now with my daughter, that I was angry with her and
the school stuff.
And And I actually expressed that to her, and rather than like I didn't want to withhold all these emotions and not share them, because I think that can also breed distrust. If you're emotionless, that or if you're only showing good emotions, it's hard to trust that somebody, when they're mad, they're actually going to be honest with you. So I think in some ways, sharing your emotions when it's appropriate, not just erratically, I think that can also breed trust, even if they're not a good feeling. That if you share that, so the other person can trust that you'll actually share it when you're not feeling good.
Yeah.
No, and that's good. Like I had a similar interaction with my daughter recently, like because she was going to Canisius and then she wasn't really happy there, and she's now transferred and she's at a local college, living on campus. But we had this conversation, and I kind of told her, like, over the summer, I was kind of angry and upset because you weren't doing a lot of this stuff for college. I said everything ended up being crammed into the last, week before you had to go to college. And she's like, yeah, well, a lot of that had to do with my stress and my anxiety and stuff, which I didn't know, because we didn't talk about that over the summer. She was just like hanging out with her boyfriend. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, God damn it, all she's doing is hanging out with the friggin' boyfriend, and she's not doing this, she's not doing that. And so I would gently be like, oh, don't forget we need to do this. And like 2 weeks would go by and we didn't do anything, and I'd remind her, and then another 2 weeks would go by, and then like I said, all of a sudden we were like end of August, like, we have a week to do this. But so we had this conversation, and that's where this came out. She's like, well, yeah, because I was not doing it because I was really stressed and having a lot of anxiety and didn't know what I wanted to do.
So as we wrap up the episode here, what are our lessons? The first one is ask what the person wants. Follow-ups are awesome. You know what I mean? Active listening. Empathize. Put yourself in their position. I think that right there, that and just asking what they want, I think those two things are like the biggest ways, personally anyway, to be there for someone, because we all know, or at least we should know, don't judge them, don't tell them what they're doing is wrong at that moment. It's like sitting there talking to somebody who's actively drunk about the dangers of alcohol. Like, what's the point? You know what I mean? Like, you're just wasting it, and at best you're just going to piss somebody off. But I think the main big takeaway from this, though, is that if you are trying, if you're coming from a place of genuine care, concern, etc., you're gonna screw it up. We're human. We can't read everything. We don't know what's going on, inside someone's head. We're only getting what they're saying. We don't know everything. So we're gonna mess it up, but that's okay, as long as it comes from a place of genuine care, concern, compassion, and empathy. I think you're gonna be okay. And I think you'll find out that you are more or less a visible man.
Well put.
Thank you. I rehearsed that.
Good job.
I had no idea what I was going to say.
Well done.
Hey, just a quick reminder, everybody over the age of 18 is welcome to join the Visible Man Discord server, where we have open discussions about men and men's mental health daily. They are moderated. It's great. The link for that will be in the show notes. If you're watching us on YouTube, you know what you're supposed to do. Smash that stupid like button and subscribe. If you are listening to the podcast, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. We have a Patreon. I think the next thing that we're going to start doing to give away stuff for that is Jeff is going to sign Excel sheets and mail them out. Might make millions. I have no idea. Remember to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and of course at visibleman.org. For the folks here at Visible Man and VM Live, this is Jack Rollins reminding you that vulnerability is the ultimate demonstration of strength. Cheers.